Hello and welcome to episode 4 of VetPhysioLife. I'm Shane Jasani and I'm joined as always by Kim Sheeder. Hi Kim.
Hello.
So Kim, I guess we should share with the listeners that you haven't had the best of weeks, in particular because your car has broken down, and there's a physiotherapist that visits people in their homes to deliver your services at the moment. That's not particularly helpful.
No, not hugely, and especially not when it decided to just freeze up on the middle of a busy roundabout. So that was a bit of a fun Wednesday afternoon, but hey-ho.
Did you manage? Well, obviously you did manage to get off the roundabout safely, but was it all a bit stressful at the time? Or?
It was extremely stressful. I had to have the RAC tow me off the roundabout and although we don't do advertising, but I have to say, oh my God, they were amazing. They towed me back from Watford in the end, which is a good over half an hour's journey from where I live. So yeah, they were absolutely fabulous. But yes, highly stressful with lots of people tooting me and people shouting at me and standing in the pouring rain at the same time because it decided to chuck it down while I was stood on the side of the road waiting for them. And yeah, not a fun afternoon.
And I want to share with the listeners because it's kind of a testament to your typical character that you still manage to hack solutions to see most of your cases despite this problem. I know we were talking before we started recording about the various solutions that you're using to make sure you continue to see your patients, which is amazing. So thank you for that.
That's all right.
So Kim, at the end of the last episode, we said we would share a little bit of audio about intervertebral discs. So I thought we would do that today. So I guess could you start by explaining to the listeners basically what the intervertebral discs are, where they're found, what they're supposed to do normally?
Yeah, absolutely. So the intervertebral discs live in between the vertebrae, hence intervertebral. So your vertebrae are, and your dog is exactly the same, dog, cat, any mammal really. Your vertebrae are the bones of your spine. So we have varying amounts of bones in the spine, but we all have a fair few of them. Sorry, I've also got a chest infection to add to everything else, so you have to bear with a bit of coughing as well, I'm afraid. So the vertebrae are the bones of the spine. They have a protective canal running through them that has the spinal cord in it, and that's really their main function, is to protect the spinal cord. The intervertebral discs live in between each of those vertebrae, and they kind of act as shock absorbers for the spine. So they're fibrous and spongy, and they, as we jump around and jostle and run and do whatever, they help reduce the compressive forces that go through the spine and help to protect the spinal cord in that way. So if you actually think about the intervertebral discs themselves, the best analogy I've got for them, which I know has made you giggle in the past, Shailene, is a jam donut.
Yeah.
So they're made of two different sort of bits, basically, the intervertebral discs. So if you think of a jam donut, you've got the doughy outer part that's kind of a bit tougher and a bit more fibrous in the spine. And then you've got an inside gooey, jammy part, which actually in the intervertebral disc is described as being a bit more like toothpaste consistency, but same sort of deal. And then, so what can happen with an intervertebral disc? Either prolapse, or in layman's terms, a slipped disc, which is a bit of a wrong term, to be honest, because the discs don't slip anywhere, they don't move anywhere. It's just that they can start bulging and pressing on stuff. So what can happen is that the fibrous bit gets a little tear in it, and then the toothpastey, jammy inside bit oozes out and presses on the spinal cord where it shouldn't be pressing, and that can cause pain and dysfunction and things like that. So that's probably the quick guide to intervertebral discs and what can go wrong with them, I guess.
No, that's fantastic. And in terms of dogs that get problems with their discs, are there particular breeds that are affected, or could it be any dog? Or
Well, there are definitely breeds that are more susceptible, and there are so the chondrodystrophic dogs are the dogs that are known to be susceptible to this disease. So these are the long-backed dogs, so the likes of Dachshunds, Corgis, Basset Hounds. So the long dogs with usually with smaller legs as well. But having said that, Cocker Spaniels, I see lots of Cocker Spaniels with intervertebral disc disease, and you can see any breed of dog really. I've treated Border Collies through to Dr. Bordeaux, Great Danes, down to tiny little Chihuahuas and pugs and things like that. So yeah, no breed is safe from intervertebral disc disease, but some have more of a risk than others. Is probably the best way of putting it.
And in terms of when dogs develop problems, so, is it usually some sort of traumatic episode? Does it just happen?
Well, again, it can depend. It can vary. So frequently it can be they're fine, and then suddenly they can't walk, or sometimes even the owners will describe, we're out for a walk, there's a massive scream, and suddenly my dog has gone from running around like a lunatic to being paralysed. So it can be very acute and sudden, but it can also be slow and insidious, which doesn't really help. So you do find that probably with the older dogs, you get chronic disc disease, which can be a bit more slow on its onset. So it starts off with noticing them looking a little bit wobbly, and then that wobbliness might get a bit worse. They might start stumbling a bit, and then you sort of go and get them investigated, and you discover that actually they've got some disc disease. So it can vary. If it's an acute onset, then the important thing is to get them to a vet as quickly as possible.
And why is that important?
Basically, because if it is an acute disc problem, so there are various different things that can happen with a disc, but if it is a disc prolapse that has the jam has come out of the inside of the disc and is pressing on the spinal cord, then in the really acute cases, then probably the best thing to do is to get them to surgery as quickly as possible to remove that jam and relieve the pressure on the spine. And the biggest prognostic indicator, so how well they're going to do afterwards, is probably time between initial onset of the problem and surgery. So that's why it's important.
Kim, is this a surgery that all vets would do, or is it a specialist type of surgery?
It's a specialist surgery that there are some general practice vets that are able to do it, but they will have had to have done extra training after they've qualified as a vet in order to be able to do it. The majority of vets will refer you on to a specialist centre where you can go and see a neurologist who will do the surgery. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And does every dog need surgery if they develop a disc problem?
No, not at all. So especially with the more chronic onsets, the slower onsets, can frequently be the case that in actual fact physiotherapy and the right rehab program and sort of general management program can actually be more effective. The problem with having a disc that's been bulging or been prolapsed for a long time is that jammy in a bit that's pressing on the spinal cord can kind of hardens and gets stuck to the spinal cord, and then sometimes the surgery to remove it can actually cause more damage to the spinal cord than it would be if we just let the body try and do its business and reabsorb reabsorb it and then use physio to overcome what weaknesses are there. So no, not at all. And I do have more than one client that I see on a regular basis for conservative management of disc prolapse. And
so we're saying that for dogs that have a disc problem, physiotherapy can be very helpful if they're not going to have surgery. What about the dogs that do have surgery? Is there a role for physiotherapy with those dogs as well?
Oh gosh, yes, absolutely. So frequently what will have happened with these dogs is they will all have had some form of physical disability, and a lot of them will have been paralysed or very nearly paralysed in either their back legs or potentially all four legs if the problem is in their neck. And you remove the stuff, but they don't just go back to being completely normal from the next day after the operation. You need to, they need to have rehab to be helped to move in normal ways again and get their strength back. And the operation in and of itself, you need to keep the dog under control for a while, because all the muscles to the spinal cord have been cut. So in that specific area, so their muscular support is also weakened. So there's the surgery in itself has to cause a little bit of instability to the spine, and you've got to wait for that to reconsolidate and get better and strengthen up again, and that physio can help with that as well.
Cool. And I'm guessing you want to be, you physios want to get involved as early as possible with those cases. Well, with all dogs that have disc problems, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, certainly the surgeries I would see from the first day after they've had their operation, if possible. The sooner the better. And it can also help physio can also help while they're in their cage rest period, which they almost certainly will have up to about 4 weeks cage rest. The physio itself can help firstly prevent them from getting weak while they're not being moved in their cage, but it will also prevent them. It can actually help to tire them out a bit more, so you don't get some dogs are feeling much, much better immediately after their operation, and actually the biggest challenge is keeping them quiet and not letting them do too much, because they're of a mindset that I feel fine now, let me go mad, it's all good. Yeah. And the physio can help wear them out a bit, so that can also be quite useful. And as far as just going to say, and as far as the non-surgical ones, sooner the better. As soon as we can get involved, the better chance we have of interacting with the nervous system in a positive way and not letting them learn bad habits, basically.
Yeah, fantastic. I was just, sorry, I was interrupting you, but I was thinking there's just the stimulation as well, right? When they're cage rested, they probably get pretty bored as well, so. Absolutely. And then you go to open the door to take them out for a wee, and then they go absolutely bonkers, and that's exactly what you want to avoid, and that's why you're doing the cage rest. So that's why, the interaction and the physio can mentally stimulate them a bit more as well as physically stimulate them, and then they can be a bit more even. So that could be a good plan. Fantastic. And I guess we just want to, clarify that in essence, that pet carers that have dogs that have problems with their discs, that the decisions in terms of whether surgery needs to be done is one that obviously they're going to be making with their primary care vet. But we would, I guess from our point of view, we would like to think that physios would, as we've already said, get involved as early as possible and basically help to kind of expand that healthcare team. Yes,
exactly. The ultimate decision as far as surgery or not surgery or anything like that always has to lie in the pet carer and the vet's hands. But the sooner that I as a physio can get involved from my point of view I can help support the carer, look after their animal while they're being rested, and try and prevent the secondary complications of cage rest as much as possible. And also I can help to affect that nervous system, because at the end of the day, the disc is not a problem. The problem that the disc causes is that it presses on the spinal cord and causes nerve damage, and that's the thing that we're actually treating. And if we can, and the quicker I can get in and treat that, then the more normal and usually the better the functional recovery is for that animal.
Okay, Kim, it's fantastic. I'm gonna let you go. Between your blessed cough and your car, I know that you're looking forward to having a bit of fun time this weekend. Yeah. So
definitely.
Thanks so much for your time, and we'll speak again after the weekend, and hopefully you'll have had a bit of R&R in the meantime.
Yes, lovely. Thank you very much.
All right, take care, Kim. Cheers.
All right, bye bye.
Bye bye.